you'll find many people who have seen these discs. Question is, where do they come from? Bob Lazar may be one of the few people who can tell us that they're from somewhere else.
I've no doubt that there's a relatively small number of people within the intelligence, military intelligence and scientific and technical intelligence community who are aware of what's going on, and an even smaller group who are actually organizing top secret research into this phenomenon.
What does the American government really know about UFOs? And how far will they go to hide the truth? In 1948, a mysterious fireball crashed to Earth near Laredo, Texas, just south of the Mexican border. The American military launched a classified mission into Mexico to recover it. Officials claimed it was an experimental aircraft, but some experts insist it was a UFO. What really fell in the desert that day, and what has been hidden from the public? Today, we uncover the secrets of the Laredo crash that have been buried for decades. A global effort has begun to reveal the truth. Secret files, long hidden from the public, detailing UFO encounters from around the world, are now accessible. These documents hold answers that were kept from the public for years. What is the government hiding, and why? The U.S.-Mexico border stretches nearly 2,000 miles, much of it through remote desert terrain. It is the busiest border in the world, crossed over 300 million times annually. But this region is also a hotspot for UFO activity. One town in particular stands out: Laredo, Texas. In 2013, the Laredo Paranormal Research Society reported a rise in UFO sightings. Oil workers described seeing strange orange discs in the sky. A local rancher reported similar objects, and motion-activated cameras captured lights hovering over farms. Witnesses have described brightly lit objects, sometimes entire fleets of UFOs, appearing in broad daylight. But why is this region a focal point for such activity? The answer may connect to an incident decades ago, one that sparked what many believe was a major government cover-up. Laredo, Texas, July 7, 1948. A ball of fire enters the Earth's atmosphere at over 2,000 miles per hour. It streaks across the Texas sky while two American military jets attempt to pursue what looks like a meteor. American radar detects an unidentified flying object traveling at high speed toward the small town, but the UFO bypasses Laredo and crashes just south of the border. One of America's leading military strategists is brought in to investigate. U.S. Secretary of State George Marshall contacts the Mexican government directly and secures permission for a small team to cross the border and recover what he describes as a special test vehicle that crash-landed. It is unusual for one country to allow another's military to cross its border for a retrieval mission, but the Mexican authorities agree. When the recovery team reaches the crash site, they reportedly find an aircraft unlike anything they have ever seen. It is described as a silver disc, over 90 feet in diameter, made of a metal foil that seems impossible to bend. What is the object, and where did it come from? Just 600 miles north of Laredo is the White Sands Proving Ground, a classified aviation research facility. 3 months before the crash in Laredo, scientists at White Sands reported witnessing a large, disc-shaped UFO performing sharp, aggressive maneuvers over the base. The craft vanished, and no explanation was ever provided. Could the object that crashed in Laredo be an experimental aircraft from White Sands? Or could it have an extraterrestrial origin? George Marshall was no stranger to UFO-related incidents. He was involved in overseeing one of the most significant UFO events in U.S. history, the Battle of Los Angeles. In February 1942, air raid sirens suddenly blared across the Southern California coastline during the night. Searchlights were activated, and they locked onto an unidentified object in the sky, surrounded by anti-aircraft flak. What was this object? Was it a Japanese bomber? If so, why couldn't the anti-aircraft defenses bring it down? Thousands of witnesses reportedly saw the UFO, but George Marshall officially denied any UFO activity. However, he privately sent a memo to President Franklin D. Roosevelt, which contained a surprising conclusion about the Los Angeles air raid. This headquarters has determined that the craft bombarded by the military are not of earthly origin and are likely of interplanetary origin, according to secret intelligence sources. The government's claim that the event was caused by a weather balloon doesn't align with the evidence. Even after 60 years, there's still no clear explanation for what happened that night. Marshall knows the crash will be much harder to hide than the wartime incident. Coming up, the Laredo wreckage leads to an extraordinary discovery, one Marshall will reportedly do whatever it takes to keep hidden. In 1948, a strange craft crashes south of the Mexican border near Laredo, Texas. Secretary of State George Marshall gets approval from Mexican officials to recover it. The recovery team begins taking apart the object, but its metal resists even the heat of acetylene torches. They are forced to use carbide and diamond drills and saws to cut through the hull. What they find inside is shocking: the burned body of the craft's pilot. Witnesses describe the being as alien in appearance, about 4.5 feet tall, with hands that have only 4 claw-like fingers. The head is humanoid in shape and size, but clearly not human. Marshall moves quickly to stop news of the discovery from spreading. Witnesses tied to the wreckage are silenced. They are instructed to tell an entirely different story, and the rest is buried. This is reportedly the third time Marshall has worked to cover up evidence of extraterrestrials. Just a year earlier, he oversaw the retrieval of one of the most controversial spacecraft to ever fall to Earth. The Roswell Incident. Roswell, New Mexico, July 7, 1947. A strange craft crashes near a small town in the American Southwest. Military personnel from the Roswell base rush to the scene, but civilian witnesses are already present. The wreckage is recovered, and what appear to be alien bodies are removed from the site. George Marshall takes charge of the situation. Although news leaks that a UFO has crashed, a cover story is quickly released. The official explanation claims the wreckage is nothing more than a weather balloon. This incident shares another similarity with a later event. The being recovered from the Laredo crash resembles the size and shape of a monkey. After World War II, the American space program had begun using rhesus monkeys as test subjects in experimental aircraft, often resulting in their deaths. Just 6 days before the Laredo UFO crash, a monkey was launched in a V-2 rocket at the White Sands Proving Ground, marking the first primate in space. However, this monkey was not the one found at Laredo. It had returned to Earth the same day, having suffocated during the flight, which lasted 6 minutes and 39 seconds. NASA denies any connection between UFO reports and these experimental flights. However, a photographer claims to have witnessed the autopsy of the charred being in 1948. According to him, the autopsy confirmed that the body was not of this world. A year earlier, in 1947, at least 4 extraterrestrial entities were recovered from the Roswell crash site. These beings fit the same physiological description as the one found in Laredo. They would later be identified as the Greys, an alien species associated with more abduction reports than any other. The situation raises concern. 2 crashes involving the same species have occurred within a year. Could the Greys be preparing for an invasion? And if so, what steps is the government taking to address this threat? Marshall reportedly establishes a task force to investigate the surge in alien activity. This group becomes known as Majestic 12, one of the most secretive groups in government history. Majestic 12 is said to oversee all UFO crashes and their recovery operations. At the time, their actions and research are so classified that even the president has limited control over them. By the mid-1950s, experts claim that alien technology from crashes like Roswell and Laredo is being reverse-engineered. However, many ufologists argue that Majestic 12's darkest secret is their alleged communication with aliens. 10 years later, Marshall steps down as Secretary of Defense, and Dwight D. Eisenhower becomes president. During this time, Majestic 12 reportedly establishes contact with the alien Greys. A meeting is said to take place between President Eisenhower and the Greys to negotiate peace between worlds. In 1957, a meeting allegedly occurs at Holloman Air Force Base between the Greys and U.S. officials. During this meeting, a treaty is supposedly signed, allowing the Greys to abduct humans for reproductive experiments under the condition that they are returned unharmed. In exchange, the Greys agree to share advanced technology. What did Eisenhower allegedly request from the Greys? And what did they demand in return? Next, we uncover the shocking details of Eisenhower's alleged treaty and reveal a leaked photo that threatens to expose one of the biggest alien conspiracies in history. In 1948, a UFO reportedly crashed near Laredo, Texas, just 1 year after the well-known Roswell incident in New Mexico. Witnesses claim that both events involved the same alien species, commonly referred to as the Greys. These beings are described as having large heads, almond-shaped eyes, thin bodies, and small, slit-like mouths. It is said that these events led to a meeting between President Dwight D. Eisenhower and representatives of the Greys at Holloman Air Force Base in New Mexico. According to some accounts, the extraterrestrials invited Eisenhower to the base to negotiate a treaty. This agreement, known as the Gata Treaty, allegedly allowed the United States access to advanced alien technology in exchange for permitting the Greys to abduct humans for experiments, as long as they were returned unharmed. Although the story may seem far-fetched, 3 witnesses reportedly confirmed this meeting. Supporters of this theory suggest that the treaty could have far-reaching implications for humanity's future. Skeptics dismissed these claims as fiction, but decades later, in 1978, new evidence surfaced. A UFO investigator working for the Mutual Anomaly Research Center and Evaluation Network received a mysterious photograph in the mail. The sender claimed the photo showed the body of an extraterrestrial recovered from the Laredo crash site. In an accompanying letter, the sender provided detailed accounts of the 1948 crash, including how the craft was recovered and the involvement of Secretary of State George Marshall. The sender also described being forced to develop the photos that same night under armed guard at the White Sands Proving Ground. This photograph, along with a detailed account of the crash, reignited debates about the existence of extraterrestrials and the possibility of secret agreements between alien species and world governments. He also claims to have smuggled out over 40 negatives documenting the autopsy and retrieval of the craft at Laredo. Marson sends the negatives to film experts for analysis. One image shows a humanoid figure with a large head and small body, which is confirmed to be real, earning it the nickname the Tomato Man. The photo sent to Marson includes a warning. Possessing it could draw the attention of a top-secret government organization. Could this group be the ultra-secret Majestic 12? And are those who threaten the alleged government cover-up at risk? As it said, it was classified above top secret. If you were at that level and approached the New York Times, your car might not even make it out of the driveway. Nor would you. Marson begins its own investigation into the identity of the photographer, hoping to convince him to release the other 40 negatives of the crash site and autopsy. However, all leads turn up false names, addresses, and post office boxes. Every trace leads to a dead end. A Marson member later shared this about the mystery photographer. "We believe we're dealing with, presumably, a career military man, very fearful of prosecution for his involvement in this affair, who is doing everything he can to stay anonymous." To this day, the identity of the Laredo photographer remains unknown. But what became of Eisenhower's agreement with the Greys? Coming up, we explore shocking claims that suggest aliens may have ended the Gata Treaty and launched a disturbing new wave of abductions. In 1948, Laredo, Texas, became the site of a mysterious event when what seems to be an alien craft crashed to Earth. Photos from the scene suggest the dead pilot was an alien Grey, the same species associated with the 1947 Roswell crash, and the same species that allegedly entered into the Gata Treaty with President Eisenhower in 1957. This treaty promised advanced technology to the U.S. in exchange for permission to conduct experiments on humans. But did the aliens uphold their end of the agreement? The treaty allowed them to experiment on humans, but over time, the situation spiraled out of control. The abductions grew more widespread, and millions of people were taken. In 2012, nearly 1 million Americans vanished without a trace, around 2,300 per day. In Mexico, the number reached over 25,000. Most of these people were never seen again. Could the crashes at Roswell and Laredo have been reconnaissance missions by the alien Greys? Some experts suggest that secret military facilities may hold alien bodies from those crashes, including those in Roswell, Laredo, and elsewhere. Could these mass disappearances be a form of retaliation? 100 humans taken for every alien life lost? And if that's the case, are we now at the mercy of these alien beings? The implications of such an arrangement between humans and the alien Greys are staggering. If the Gata Treaty indeed exists, it raises questions about the long-term objectives of these extraterrestrial beings. Why would they be so interested in human experiments? What are they looking to achieve through these abductions and tests? Some experts theorize that the Greys are attempting to solve their own genetic issues, possibly related to reproduction or biological adaptation, by using human DNA. Others suggest a far more sinister motive, that the Greys are preparing for a hybridization program aimed at creating a new species. This possibility has fueled countless conspiracy theories and heightened fears about humanity's role in the grander extraterrestrial agenda. The fact that millions of people reportedly vanish without explanation each year only deepens the mystery. Could these disappearances be tied to alien activity, as some claim? If so, the Gata Treaty may have spiraled far beyond what President Eisenhower could have ever anticipated. Adding to the suspicion, leaked documents have surfaced over the decades. Reportedly tied to Majestic 12, which shed light on the lengths the government may have gone to maintain secrecy. These documents reveal alleged protocols for suppressing information about UFOs and extraterrestrial encounters. In some cases, whistleblowers have claimed that those who attempt to expose the truth face intimidation, threats, or even worse. This atmosphere of fear and suppression has made it nearly impossible to verify these claims or uncover the full scope of what may be happening behind closed doors. One of the most chilling aspects of the Gata Treaty is the lack of public oversight. If the treaty exists, it would represent one of the greatest betrayals of trust in human history, a deal struck in secret, offering up innocent lives in exchange for technology. While the advancements in aerospace, computing, and other fields during the mid-20th century were remarkable, skeptics wonder if they were entirely the result of human ingenuity. Could some of these breakthroughs have stemmed from alien collaboration? Evidence pointing to this possibility includes testimonies from high-ranking military officials, pilots, and scientists who claim to have worked on reverse engineering alien technology. One infamous case involves Bob Lazar, who in 1989 alleged that he worked at a secretive site near Area 51, attempting to understand the propulsion systems of extraterrestrial spacecraft. While Lazar's claims remain controversial, they echo stories from others who insist that the U.S. government possesses alien technology obtained from crashes like Roswell and Laredo. But what of the Greys' endgame? Some ufologists argue that the Gata Treaty was never meant to be a long-term agreement. Instead, they claim it was a temporary arrangement, one that the Greys would eventually abandon once they no longer needed human cooperation. If true, this would explain the increase in abductions and sightings over the years. Reports of alien encounters, often described in terrifying detail by abductees, suggest that the Greys operate with little regard for human consent or well-being. One of the most compelling pieces of evidence supporting the existence of the Gata Treaty is the consistency of these abduction reports. Victims from around the world describe strikingly similar encounters with beings that match the Greys' description. Short, with gray skin, large almond-shaped eyes, and an emotionless demeanor. Some abductees even claim to have been shown visions of environmental destruction or warnings about the future of humanity. Whether these warnings are genuine or a psychological manipulation tactic remains a subject of debate. As humanity stands on the brink of further advancements in space exploration, the questions surrounding the Gata Treaty take on even greater significance. If extraterrestrial life exists and has already made contact, what does that mean for our future as a species? Will humanity be able to assert its independence? Or are we already entangled in a web of alien influence beyond our control? The mystery of the Gata Treaty remains unsolved, leaving us to ponder the unsettling possibility that humanity's fate may be tied to forces far beyond our understanding. The truth, if it exists, could forever change the way we see ourselves and our place in the universe. Until then, the debate continues, and the secrets of Roswell, Laredo, and the Greys remain locked away, tantalizingly out of reach. What are your thoughts on these mysteries? Tell us in the comments below and subscribe for more.